And welcome everyone to an off-season NABC chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Jim Crutchfield, head coach of Nova Southeastern. The Sharks won their second ever national championship, 1-point win over Cal State Dominguez Hills. So since the national championship in Division II, what has life been like for you, Jim?
Well, the game plan was to relax a little bit, but it hasn't really gone to plan. Recruiting in today's environment, you have to re-recruit sometimes, but we've been busy recruiting, and we're just finishing up, I think, recruiting right now. So maybe there's a round of golf ahead of me here in the next couple of weeks, but for the most part, it has been recruiting.
MJ Araldi's performance, MVP, carrying you guys through to that title. When you look back at what he was able to accomplish to that run up to the championship, what do you remember most?
I remember him just getting better and better. We had him for 2 years, and he came in as a good scorer, but he kind of left as a better player, and to the point where he's a guy that's really spent a lot of time outside of practice, outside of games, working on his game in the gym in the morning, very focused on what he wanted to do on a basketball court. And it's sometimes you see guys do that and you don't see results. With MJ, boy, I saw results. He just kept getting better and better, and he ended up being the National Player of the Year.
The champion, as you said, and I feel like this is at all levels, in talking to whether it's Trinity or Florida, now yourself, at all divisions, there's no rest for the weary here. I mean, even if you win the championship, it's right back at it. How has life changed, though, Division II, in terms of the roster management you're speaking of and the transfer portal? How have things changed over the last year, even if and when you win a championship?
I think 2 years ago is probably the first time it hit me. We won the national championship in the locker room after the game. All the guys were hooping and hollering, and I had 4 starters back off that team. And we had a couple good recruits coming in, and I heard some of the guys yelling, and we're going to do it again next year. And I'm not one to be overconfident, but I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good possibility. We might be back here next year. And that was their intention. But 2 weeks later, one was at Georgia, one was at Memphis, one was at College of Charleston, one was at Sanford. NIL money hit all of them, and all of a sudden, the cupboard was bare. So I think that's the first time it really hit. But it's here. It's at all different levels. The amount of money is different, but as guys at our level are being searched out hard by, from anywhere from mid-major D1s, small D1s, major D1s, the guys at the lower D1s are moving up. It's hit everywhere. It's just kind of a mad scramble. At one time, the transfer was kind of like, oh, he's transferring. Now, even the guys that aren't in the transfer portal, they're in the transfer portal and they don't even know it. It's just everybody's able to transfer now.
The Division II player, as you just mentioned, I don't think gets enough love because, and we see this D3 as well, that for whatever reason, everyone chooses a different path. Maybe they were under recruited. Maybe academically they weren't ready for different levels or what have you. But basketball is basketball. How have you seen the talent level risen over the last couple of years to where maybe the difference isn't as great as we've seen in decades past?
And, theoretically, it would probably go the other direction. As talent moves up, it gets harder to compete with Division Ones. I think there's always been a crossover. Division I basketball has a stronger talent pool than Division II. However, it's not like here's Division I and here's Division II. There's a crossover. And, I looked at the Massey rankings, and last year they had us on the D1 poll at 129. And that would be over 370. We're in the top half of Division I. So there is a crossover. We've had a chance to play some scrimmage games against Miami or FAU when they went to the Final Four. And you would say, well, there is no difference, when you watch the game live. We're trying to get more D1s to play us, and that question wouldn't have to be asked as much if there was more competition between the better D2s and just general D1s. But, theoretically, if the best D2 players are getting offered money to move up, D2 won't be as strong in the future. But, you find guys, and you develop players that, people don't talk about player development much anymore. It's still there. You can still, MJ Araldi is a good example. I mean, 2 years ago, no one at the D level had an interest in MJ, but if he had a year left, he would be probably, easily six figures, probably pushing up to a $500,000 player. So it's hard for me to say if we're catching up. It's going to be competitive, and the D1, D2 thing, I think Ben McCollum might have answered that a little bit last year at Drake. That not only was he a good coach, but he brought 4 players and was successful at D1. What people don't realize, their leading scorer was the one stars that didn't go to Drake. So, it's there. We're close. There's good competition, but D1 overall is stronger. It's that simple.
Well, but I mean, look, I work a lot with the Maui Invitational, and Chaminade obviously gets a lot of play off of that, within the tournament. And I think the general public doesn't even know that Chaminade's not on the equal footing. And yet, for the most part, they're pretty competitive in these games. They don't win, but they're competitive. We'll see if maybe there could be something like that for a school like Nova in tournaments, maybe, on this part of the country, on the East Coast or down in Florida, the Caribbean. Next year, though, and I think this is going to be an important part of exposure for D2, D3, we're going to have, and this was supposed to happen in 20 in Atlanta, it didn't happen obviously because of COVID, in Indianapolis, the finals of D2, D3 in Indy at Cambridge, the same weekend as the Final Four at Lucas Oil. The semis won't be at Cambridge, but the final will be. What do you think that will do in terms of helping exposure or the overall basketball experience for those student athletes?
Exposure is good, and kids love exposure. I mean, they like the spotlight on them. I don't know that it makes people see that D2 basketball is any better, but the exposure is good. We played this year. There was actually under 1 million viewers this year at our game. The previous years, I think there was more, up to 2 or 3 million. This year, maybe the previous show that when indoor game wasn't as strong. But the exposure is good, but I don't know that it makes us any better. I think the only way, if you really want to see how good D2 could be, let some of the D2s that are better, let them play some D1. Let us play the national championship in D1. Let's see what happens. I would put my team last year up against most D1s. I think we have a style of play that gives people trouble. Would we be an underdog? Yeah, but it would not be what you would think it would be. And the Chaminade is a good example. Chaminade, and their coach is one of my best friends in the world. He was my assistant, Eric Bavard. And they beat Texas, and they beat California by 20. But they're not a strong D2. They're an average D2. Let some of the stronger D2s play against some D1s, and let's find out.
Well, I mean, look, you brought up Ben McCollum. I mean, obviously did a great job at Drake. They win the league. They win a game. Bennett Sturts goes from winning a national championship at one point to being the player of the year in the Valley at Drake. And now who knows what he'll do at Iowa. So, I mean, here's a D2 player that continues to climb and a coach as well. And he's got teammates that are doing the same thing. All tremendous. Before I let you go, you said 2 years ago, guys left, come back, win it. What are you feeling right now about prospects for 26?
I don't know. I know I have enough pressure on me already to win after we've been to 3 straight and won 2 of them. I think we got a good team. I do. But we have a certain style of play. It's misconceived as maybe being, I don't want to use the word gimmick, but it's really fundamental, but it's different. It's a high intensity level of basketball. I got 7 or 8 new guys that got to buy in. Until I see them understand what we're trying to do, I don't feel confident. I'm actually a guy, I never feel too confident, until I get there. But I think that we have a solid team of guys I'm still a believer that if you have good team chemistry, what's that old saying, when the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts? We're striving for that. We're pushing for that next year.
Well, before I let you go, high octane, give me something else about what people don't understand about the way you play.
They think we're run and gun, and we're the furthest thing from run and gun. In the 20 years I've been a head coach, we've averaged just over 100 points a game for 20 years. But we're not what Paul Westhead was, and we're not anything like. I have never once mentioned scoring points. I've never mentioned get a shot off quick. I've never even mentioned get the ball back quick. I've never even mentioned higher number of possessions. But the way we play aggressively on both ends, not letting the other team relax, the numbers are a byproduct, but it's about field goal percentage. We have to shoot a good field goal percentage. We've got to get rebounds. We've got to get more rebounds. We got to handle the ball better than the other team. We've got to force turnovers, but not turn the ball over ourselves. It's fundamental basketball, but it is high octane. It comes with a different style. We're going to pick up full court. We're going to trap. We're going to chase. We're going to push the ball offensively, but we don't take bad shots, and we hit the boards on both sides.
Well, it worked. It has worked multiple times. You're a champion again in this program. And obviously, we'll see what happens in 26. It's way too early, but congrats again on this national championship over the past season.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.